begins to exist has a cause seems to be true to me. I just, from my perspective, that seems to be
it's a fallacy of composition off the bat. Just to say that everything has a cause based on your 0.00005% of the things you have available to you.
Well, you're adding that second part. I didn't say.
This is Russell's critique.
But I'm not. But yeah, again, you'd be right.
But I'm just
first
saying
of all, I don't think you'd be right if you'd be saying that even if I made the argument that I'm generalizing it from my experience. I don't think that's right. That's not a fallacy of composition, but it's just a generalization from a certain data set. It's basically induction.
Yeah,
but
that's what induction is.
Yes, but you infer the whole. It's not an issue of induction. This is an issue of inferring the whole based upon the part. That's what a fallacy.
I don't know what whole I'm referring to. I'm not referring to a whole. I'm saying everything that begins. It's like saying every sheep is black. I'm not talking about there's like some mega sheep that's black. I'm saying everything that begins to exist has a cause. I'm not referring. There's no parts and wholes in this. But what I'm saying, I'm not even making that argument. What I'm saying.
I discovered that I've been unsuccessful in covering all the bases. For what I've come to realize is that some objections are so squirrely, so off the wall, so bad, that I could never have anticipated them. These criticisms are not found in scholarly journals. Instead, they're found in popular critiques of the argument on the internet and YouTube. Up to now, I've focused on scholarly critiques of the argument and just ignored such popular criticisms because I figured they were so misguided that there just was no point in responding to them. But tonight, I've chosen to use this opportunity to address the worst of them. Let's go then to objections to the first premise. Bad objection number 4. The first premise is based upon the fallacy of composition. It fallaciously infers that because everything in the universe has a cause, therefore the whole universe has a cause. Response to number 4. In order to understand this objection, we need to understand the fallacy of composition. This is the fallacy of reasoning that because every part of a thing has a certain property, therefore the whole thing has that same property. Now, while wholes do sometimes possess the properties of their parts, for example, a fence, every picket of which is green, is also green, this is not always the case. For example, every little part of an elephant may be light in weight, but that does not imply that the whole elephant is light in weight. Now, I have never argued that because every part of the universe has a cause, therefore the whole universe has a cause. That would be manifestly fallacious. Rather, the reasons I've offered for thinking that everything that begins to exist has a cause are these. Number 1, something cannot come from nothing. Now, note well that the third reason is an appeal to inductive reasoning, not reasoning by composition. It's drawing an inductive inference about all the members of a class of things based on a sample of the class. Inductive reasoning undergirds all of science and is not to be confused with reasoning by composition, which is a fallacy. So, this objection is simply aimed at a straw man of the objector's own construction.
The Muslim metaphysician Justin Abdul and I think Sharif in the Thought Adventure podcast, and there's a couple others. This is about a year and a half ago, and they were debating the Kalam cosmological argument. And someone found him, and well, it's a fallacy according to philosophy. It's not a correct objection to the Kalam, and William Lane Craig argues as to why it's not. Because he says because he wasn't arguing that all the parts have a beginning, therefore the universe has a beginning. He's arguing that nothing, that something can't come from nothing.
Because you
I'm
can't,
saying
right?
that Jmike looked really, really bad in that video because he actually said that this was a composition fallacy, and then Abdul corrects him and says, no, it's induction. And then this guy shows this video in which William Lane Craig actually says this is inductive argument induction, and the scientific, this is what science is built off of.
Christ. All right, so I don't know what the mistake you think Jmike made. The composition fallacy is a fallacy of thinking something is true of the whole if it's true of the parts, right? That's what it means. So it means that in this case, it would be just because things in the universe need a cause or need a beginning or something or whatever, begin to exist, that doesn't mean that universes begin to exist.
Well, the point was William Lane Craig doesn't argue that.
Right. And the arguments from science.
He's not making a composition fallacy.
No, he is
and William
making
Lane
a composition fallacy.
Well, here, you want me to send the video to you and you can listen to it, Haiti?
No, I want you to tell me what William Lane Craig knows about is based on what occurs in this universe.
Not what his argument.
Say that everything that begins to exist has a cause. So in this one, for the induction one, that one, he does appeal to things in our universe, and that's actually subject to attack from things like these composition fallacy things.
Lane Craig says is what he's saying
in
this video is he's saying that he's not arguing parts of it begin to exist, so it's not a composition. What
you don't again. You don't understand. You don't understand.
Haiti, let me finish.
No, because you don't understand the objection.
No, I do understand it.
No one is saying he's saying parts.
But that's what Jmike said in the video. He called it a composition fallacy.
Yeah, you don't know what a composition fallacy. All right.
William Lane Craig defined composition fallacy.
He's debate broing again. He did it yesterday and he's doing it again. I told you he's spun out of control. He can't control himself.
Jmike for some odd reason.
Oh, you're triggered, man.
No.
This is a good video against
you're just over-talking people, Matt.
Okay, well, I mean,
you're triggered, bro. Just like coax some more.
Pin it up top if they want. If I send it to you, Haiti, you want to pin it up top?
This is gonna, and instead of listening to people when they say you don't have it right and wasting a fucking week getting it wrong, why don't you just listen right now and get it right now? Why don't you do that?
Because I know y'all don't have it wrong. I literally know you guys don't have it right, and
nobody gives a fuck.
Look.
Fucking patient.
Think he understands the objection that it's a composition fallacy.
So mad.
Of course he doesn't.
He's super confused.
I think I really question whether.
But what did you do to get him so mad?
What the problem is with the objection? I think the William Lane Craig response is a substantive reply to the accusations of composition fallacy.
John, you're saying in one sense it is committing the composition fallacy, and another it isn't?
I think the issue came up, and I think Craig actually reformulated the argument to address it.
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right, John.
Right. Then in its initial form, it could be guilty.
Yeah, can I say something?
You'd have to. Hold on a second. You'd have to show the evidence for that, Jack, because I don't think that's right.
Well, why do you not think it's a composition fallacy, Jake?
Because it's not. If you know what a composition fallacy is, yeah. If you know what a composition fallacy actually is, then you would know that the way that the first premise is formulated and the support that is given for it and the considerations given for it is not based on any reasoning from part to whole.
Hey guys,
was that really?
Could I just clarify my question real quick? Because
that's fine. That's fine.
I just wanted to. I just want to know. You had said that the Kalam cosmological argument, premise one, you rejected because of the composition fallacy, and I was wondering, are you saying that you do not hold to that any longer?
Well, my view at the time was just I don't know what it means to look at some set of data, which would be just a minuscule fraction of the universe, and then infer that everything has, because of some small part, that the whole must be representative of that. I think that's more applicable for like contingency types of arguments, depending on how they're phrased, I guess, or like I guess Russell's type of objection. But
It's an inductive
I don't. I mean, I don't.
inference.
I'd have to. I'm gonna have to look at what I even said to know what I'm rejecting, because it was a while ago. But the way that I typically just object the first premise is that I don't think there are composite objects, I don't think there are objects with proper parts, or at least that's kind of where I lean. I would say I'm not really committed to a lot of views. I'm more of a skeptic, but I would say I lean away from physicalism, or like I lean towards, the Platonism about propositions or something is how I would phrase it.
Okay, so premise one, everything that begins to exist has a cause. You're not saying now is a composition fallacy. Would that be correct?
You said what? Sorry,
You're
your
not.
audio's kind of shit.
You're not saying that premise one, everything that begins to exist has a cause, is a composition fallacy now. Is that what you're saying? That it's not a composition fallacy?
No, what I was contesting was like how someone comes to that conclusion if they look at some part and then infer the whole, that everything.
Well, you did reject it as a composition fallacy. I'm just wondering if you still hold to that.
Yeah, I mean, I would still. I mean, I don't know if I would look. What I'll just be plain in language. What I reject is looking at some small set of data and inferring that the whole entire set of that data must also be the same. That's what I reject, and I still reject that.
That's just an inductive inference.
Yeah, that's not a composition fallacy. That is an inductive inference.
That's why I'm saying that's why I wouldn't. Yeah, that's why I wouldn't say it's Yeah, but yeah, exactly. I would just reject. That's why I would want to phrase it plainly like that, because I think there would be a mistake in probably what I said on record. But I would just reject the notion that you could extrapolate such thing to all things, or such an
yeah. But then you have a problem with induction in general.
Okay, how?
Because the way you expressed it in general terms is just what an inductive inference is, unless you wanted to specify the specific problem with this type of inductive inference that's being made.
You were muffled. I didn't hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. It's just really muffled on my end. I probably have to switch my Bluetooth.
Yeah, I said the way that you expressed it in terms of speaking about having a small set of the data, right? And that's all that you have available to you. And that you making an inductive inference based on that limited set of data that you have. That's just what induction is, right? And that's just what we do. So the problem is that if you just keep it general like that. Well, let me just finish what I'm saying. So the problem is if you keep it general like that, if the criticism is general in that fashion, then it seems like it's just going to apply to all cases of induction. And obviously you don't want that to be the case. So you're going to have to specify.
I don't know why not, but okay.
Well, unless you have a problem with induction in general, do you?
Well, no. But look, if your inference is about material, if your inference involves material objects, right? Then why don't that's great. But the main issue I have, which I would just speak on now, because you want to ask me about something I said in the past, which I've already agreed is probably not something I would argue.
I didn't ask, so let's be clear. I didn't ask.
Well, sorry, I'm not looking at I mean, I know Matt asked, but I don't know who's even asking at this point. But what I would say is that I don't think that things begin to exist at all, right? Is this Jake?
Yeah, but that's another objection.
I think I think me and you talked about this, or someone in your crew, we talked about this whole objection at one point. I don't know if it really got anywhere, but I don't know that things begin to exist. I don't know what thesis you have for mereological realism that's going to compel me.
Yeah, but again, that's just a different objection, right? So Matt's trying to get clear on the previous one, unless
that's fine. But
induction in general, then you're.
Well, no, I mean that's fine. I'll just concede that. That's fine. Let's concede that.
Yeah, but
then how do you?
But I'm just asking, are you?
I just told you I'm conceding.
You're conceding what though?
Yeah, I'm conceding it's not a good objection at the first premise. Let's just concede that. So what would be the issue with the?
Well, that's all that I think Matt was questioning about.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, that's all I was wanting.
But that's what I had.
Was a big controversy.
But that's what I had prefaced at the beginning, was that I don't know that that's a great objection.
Yeah, but I think Matt was wondering why that is, right? So
sure, and that's why I specified with plain language why I would think that that's the case, in terms of that I don't know how you just look at a set of data and go from there. Right, but I'd be willing to just concede that that's probably not a great objection.
I'm saying your specification.
Yeah, I know. Listen, Jake. Listen, I get you. I get that it would be a good objection. Listen, I'll explain why. Because if your entailment is just to say you have this extra cost, right, it's going to apply to all these other things that you also believe, then great, conceded, right? That's fine. That's not an objection that I would raise now, 2 years after the fact.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
right, because what you're citing is a conversation I had 2 years ago. I was a physicalist 2 years ago, right?
How's that relevant to? How's that relevant?
I'm just saying, it's relevant in the sense that there's positions I held and objections I've had to arguments that I don't think work, right? And it's through further analysis.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a problem. I mean, like,
I don't think
that's a problem.
I don't think understanding the difference between an inductive inference and the fallacy of composition is relevant to whether or not someone is a physicalist.
Well, no, the point of it, the distinction is to draw that there are positions that I've held that were wrong, or that I don't agree with anymore, potentially, or that could just be potentially.
Yeah, that's
false.
fine. That's same as with me, right? There's no problem.
But
with
yeah,
that.
So then right now at this juncture, what's the issue?
No, because now, Jmike, what I'm saying is, okay, you're throwing that objection out the window, fine. But I'm saying even your reasoning now and the way that you've expressed it of what you think would be problematic about it is just what an inductive inference is, right? So we're still trying to clear up whether or not you understand what an inductive inference is. And if you do, then why you would make that what you're saying in plain language is just you expressing a problem with induction in general. And I don't think you would want to say something like that.
There is a problem with induction.
So you don't think it's valid to make inductive inferences? Is that what you're saying?
No, there's obviously a problem with induction.
Okay, so what exactly is the problem? Because I know what the problem of induction is in like a broader context, but it seems like you're using it much more generally than that, about trying to actually be skeptical about the very inference itself and seem like, well, it's not really valid to use.
Well, look, you're in. Hold on. The inductive method you have presupposes that objects have composite parts. What's the argument for that?
I don't know where you got on. Where did you get to composite parts from anything we just said? I don't know where you got that from.
Yeah, so you're invoking some inductive inference. Is it the case that when you assess that you think, right, you say things begin to exist, right? That's some inductive inference that you have. Is that the case that you have an argument for that?
Yeah, but Jmike, now you're moving on to like the mereological nihilism objection, which
what's
still trying to focus on.
What's wrong with after conceding the first part?
Because even the way in which you're conceding it shows that you still don't understand the original problem. That's the point. Like, what's the point of moving on if, in my mind, the first problem hasn't been cleared up? I mean, unless maybe I'll just ask the room. Am I incorrect?
Well, I was about to ask Troy or somebody else, because we could just move on to the other part.
Okay, I mean, if Friction's here, if he wants to comment and agree or disagree with my assessment of what's happening.
I don't really care. It doesn't really matter. It's just whether or not, if you want to continue to press that after I've conceded that's fine.
Well, I do appreciate
conceded that it was a problem of induction and not composition.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah, but then Friction is still saying like there's this problem of induction in which even granting that it's an inductive inference being made, it's like some general problem.
I'm asking you, when you make that assessment, like how are you coming to composite objects? If we can move to that part.
Oh yeah, but that's a different thing.
No, I
But,
agree with
it
that.
depends
But
on what people want to talk about.
sure. I mean, if he doesn't want to talk about that, that's fine. I don't know what I can do other to concede
So
you the
Jmike, the
point
question
that we talked. Hold
hang
on, real
on,
quick.
quickly.
For background, it was a conversation from 2 years ago that I'm conceding him to, or how many ever.
Right. But it's one thing to concede that the inference is a inductive inference and doesn't commit a composition fallacy. It's another thing to concede that what was it that you could have inductive inferences?
Do you consider?
Yeah, that wasn't what I was contesting.
Well, it seemed like when
you
were saying now, when you said, well, in simple language X, your explanation indicated a problem with induction in general. I mean, unless you want to restate it. I don't want to misrepresent you, Jmike. Like, I'm not trying to
look,
set you up or anything.
No, it's fine. I mean, maybe I misspoke. I mean, the point that I was trying to draw at that point was that that there's an issue I would have making such an assessment, right? There's a couple issues I have. One, that if it is just material, how that applies to the rest of the argument, which is obviously not your concern, but the inductive assessment of here's something, it began to exist, therefore all things must begin to exist, right? Like I'll concede the inductive issue. But what I'm curious about is that when you even say that things begin to exist, like what that means, what's the argument for realism? It doesn't seem like the way that I've interpreted mereological realism with like whatever fusion hypothesis or whatever kind of way that they've tried to construct realism, it doesn't really make sense to me. I don't really understand the argument.
So let me ask the question this way, right? So your question now is about whether or not things begin to exist in general, correct?
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, so right. So just to clear up the last issue, if you granted, for the sake of argument, that things do begin to exist, genuinely speaking, then you wouldn't have a problem with the inductive inference, correct?
No, when you say things begin to exist, what are you referring to? Everything, that's very broad. What are you saying? You're saying there's some things that begin that have a proper ontology to them? What does that mean?
Yeah, everything that we're acquainted with begins to exist.
Okay, why? Right? Because like from my
understanding, I'm saying I'm not moving on to the second issue. I want to be clear on if someone did think that things genuinely began to exist, for the sake of argument. I know you're not granting that, but I'm saying if someone believes that things genuinely do begin to exist, then you don't have a problem with extrapolating based on that inductive inference, correct?
Well, no, but I would like to see like some type of argument, right?
In terms of what?
An argument for mereological realism.
Okay, good. So then we're clear that the problem would no longer be a composition fallacy, and it wouldn't be anything to do with an induction, right? It would just be, now the problem would just be whether or not things begin to exist at all.
Yep, waiting for the argument.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's all that Matt wanted to know. I mean, if you want to have that other discussion, me personally, I'm not really too particularly interested in that.
So Jake, all you wanted to know was whether he considers induction as a justification rationally.
It's obviously a justification, but I've tried to I don't really understand the problem because I've tried to concede that so we can move on to the next point.
I'm asking Jake.
I know that, but what he's referring to is a conversation from 2 years ago.
Well, I'm not even sure if that's what he was asking, so I'm asking him, was that actually what he was trying to press on?
Wait, but I don't understand how it's not a composition fallacy, because it's not just an inductive argument, right? Like the point is, there are two ways of considering it, right? It would make sense as an inductive inference if you were to say something like every material object we've seen coming to existence began to exist, it's hard to understand if the universe itself is a material object, right? Like the universe.
That's what I said.
And so it's you might think that it's like a faulty inductive inference if you're under that impression. So it's not like it's. The point is that why should we think that the universe has the same properties as the things in the universe? And you're not answering that question by just making inductive inference from the things inside the universe.
Inductive inference is just anything that begins to exist.
It's just anything, and the universe is a thing, so it would just apply to that.
It's like presupposes. Yeah, hold on, Josh. Am I wrong that presupposes mereological realism in that point? I mean, I know that might just be a side point, but like, there seems like there's like a lot packed into that I just don't want to grant.
Well, it does presuppose that the universe is a thing, and if it's a thing, it's certainly composite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a mereological nihilist. Like, I just don't. That's just like obviously I'm not going to accept that.
And of course, the inductive base will assume objects. Yeah, I mean that's a different conversation.
But it also might beg the question in the sense that, like, if the universe is a thing and it's a thing we observe, we didn't observe the beginning of the universe, and so we would just say it's not the case that all observed F's or G's in that case, right? That would be a question begging response, because the very thing in question is an F that we don't know whether or not it has a beginning.
Yeah, and Josh, 2 years ago they tried to get me on this like general, like just hasty generalization.
What Troy was going to say. Hold on a second.
I think someone could say that of the things that we've observed that began to exist, that we've determined or can determine whether they had a cause, they all had a cause, right? And so the universe, if it's something that we haven't already determined whether it has a cause, it wouldn't be a counterexample to that. It's not as if we've determined that it doesn't have a cause. Someone could draw this inductive inference from, look, we have all these things. Here's the ones that we've determined whether they have a cause, and given that they began to exist, all of them do, suppose. And so it will generalize to other things that for which we haven't determined whether they have a cause.
That's right.
Including the universe. I mean, obviously, I'm not aware of any of this, but it's
Well, but so when do you think that the composition fallacy is applicable? It might, the whole point is...
here's how someone could draw the same conclusion that the universe has a cause without in a way that does commit a composition fallacy. And said every part of the universe has a cause, so the universe as a whole has a cause. That would be a composition fallacy. Right?
Yeah, but so how would Jake? Okay, so then explain how it's being referred to.
Explain the difference. Explain the difference.
Yeah.
So
because now
we're going back to square one.
Well, no. I just want to make sure that I'm tracking this. That's all.
Well, the difference is that, I mean, that's a clear inference from we're saying that these parts have some feature, and so that the whole that they compose has that same feature. That's the inference we're making, which is a composition fallacy. But the normal inference, the inductive inference to the conclusion that the universe has a cause, is that just everything that has a beginning has a cause. And, well, the universe is a thing that had a beginning, suppose, and so it has a cause. It's not because it's a composite of all the other things. It may or may not be. We're inferring it inductively in this way.
That's right.
Yeah, and so does that not just assume that mereological simples provide composition at some like vague level?
It does assume that there are composite objects, given that we're assuming
that
there's a universe that's
then that just seems to bake
and the other things.
Just seems to bake in, at least at the small level, that you could just infer, right? I mean, like
Yeah, no, look,
I have a hard time with
it's
this.
fine. We can question whether there are composite objects, and so you might question some of the assumptions that that are required for this inference. That's fine. I mean, I wouldn't.
You want to say that's beside the point or something, right?
Beside the present point, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want to say that there are no composite objects, I mean, we could have that conversation. That's certainly not my view.
Maybe I'm not following, but aren't the things, like if you're trying to have this set as like all things that begin to exist have a cause, but all the things that we're witnessing are parts of the thing you're trying to make the induction of. Isn't that the problem that Jmike is trying to say? That the only thing we're observing are the parts.
Hang on. Well, there's two separate issues. One, I think he's right now bringing up this issue about composition, which is separate from.
Well, that's a separate issue. What was that, Jane? I'm not looking at my phone. What Jane said was the original issue. Yeah.
Right. So it sounds like the word is this.
Even gonna concede to that.
So it sounds, if the word is something like this, that, well, look, you're framing this as an inductive inference, but as a matter of fact, all the things you're using as your inductive base, right, to draw the inference, are parts of the universe, and you're concluding that the universe, therefore, has a cause, right, shares some feature with all of those parts. And while that's, I mean, it might be true, right, that all the things we're using to draw the induction are parts of the universe. It's not a composition fallacy, because it's not as if we're inferring that because there's this whole that has all these things as parts, and those parts have this property, the whole therefore also has that property. It's in that sense, it's not.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It doesn't take the form of a composition fallacy, even if, as a matter of fact, all of the things in the inductive base are proper parts of the thing we're generalizing to. There might be other reasons to. I mean, maybe you think that, well, maybe the universe the whole is somehow special, or maybe we think that there's.
So would you say it's just would you say that it's correct to say it's a hasty generalization or something like that, as opposed to?
So it would be. So the claim that it's a hasty generalization would be, well, I mean, we don't have enough of an inductive base. We don't have enough examples to
yeah, exactly.
To reliably draw an inductive inference like this. Then, I mean, it's a bit tricky. Well,
I think that's what
would be enough.
I don't know,
I mean,
Jake. What's the guy? Is it Abdul?
What's up?
Is Abdul? Is that his name? The one,
Yeah, he was involved in the conversation.
Yeah, because I think that's what he charged me with, right? And so if that's the case, I just want to.
I mean, originally you explicitly said it was a composition fallacy, but I think.
Well, no. What he was saying was that at best it would be a general or hasty generalization.
Right.
That's another
maybe
complaint. Yeah.
something you would want to say, right? And then we would have to evaluate that, and I think that's what Friction was saying.
Yeah, that's one way you could go. I mean, if you want to.
Sure. Okay. So I mean, I think I'm tracking.
That wouldn't undermine induction generally.
Yeah, exactly. Because there was a concern about the way you were expressing it, that it would somehow undermine induction in general, and that's obviously not something that either party would want.
Of course,
I see that.
Of course,
point.
If you think
I've seen that point.
Of course, if you think that there's no composite objects, then of course you know.
Well,
there's no point in first discussing this stuff about
sure
being hasty, because you don't even grant any of the examples.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. That helps me a lot. No, I mean that's fair.
As far as the previous example about the composition fallacy, there's a John Lee analogy, right? Like if you say something like the guy on Clubhouse, John Lee, whatever he says is likely false, right? That's not going to be an ad hominem if you're just generalizing from a set of experiences where he said a lot of false things. But it would, but it's still true that
The guy is hosting a room on Clubhouse tomorrow. You gonna get him, babe?
Oh, hold on.
It's still going to be true that John Lee is a theist, right? The person that is on Clubhouse that John Lee is the person that is a theist on Clubhouse. And it would be weird for John Lee to charge us with some kind of genetic fallacy or ad hominem, right?
Sure.
That, even though it's still true that there's an identity relation between the theist on Clubhouse that John Lee is identical to the person on Clubhouse that we're talking about, that we have a background experiences of. It would be I think inappropriate to say that's an ad hominem. And that's analogous to the things that we observe. For all the things that we observe, or everything that exists has a beginning. That so happened to be identical with all the parts of the universe, or parts of the universe.
Yeah, so what I was expressing and what Josh was saying, I think, was where my head was at initially. But I mean, at first glance, I think it'd be fair to actually to heed what probably Troy and Jake are saying in the sense of the issue, because
it matters where you're reasoning from, right?
I was going to say, yeah. But I mean, the main issue. Sorry, go ahead. No, you
if
go
you're
ahead.
reasoning from the fact that John Lee is a theist, so therefore what he's saying is wrong, there's the ad hominem. But we're not reasoning from that. We're reasoning from
Exactly
our experiences with John Lee. And so in the same way that we're supposedly reasoning from our experiences with things that begin to exist, not from the fact that they're parts.
Sure.
Hey, by the way, I think Cease is in the audience. He was also a part of that conversation, but I don't think he knows how to use the app. So
well,
he wants to come up.
I don't think C shared my objection. The issue I had with
But I think Matt's the one that brought it up. I think he was just curious and clearing that up. But I think we did clear it up.
It's
so
fine.
I mean,
no, it's fine. I have
so
no
it's fine,
problem with that. Like I would prefer to clear it up and be wrong and know that, or be right and confirmed, right? So it's fine. But yeah, I mean, nonetheless, if you would want to talk about that, the objections that I would prefer to offer at the time. I mean, granted, maybe in 2 years from now, I don't agree with this objection, but
yeah, that's fine
if you
too.
would, it would be cool. It'd be cool to have that conversation, because I really don't understand meteorological realism. I think that position is just fucking absurd to me.
Okay.
So how is the
do you
inference...
not think that there are everyday objects? You don't think they're trees?
No, I think there are trees arranged meteorological symbols arranged tree-wise.
Yeah, but are you saying that there's some big, metaphysical distinction between symbols arranged tree-wise and there being a tree there? Because I would agree that a tree, it's a matter of its composition, is made up of atoms and stuff. I mean, maybe symbols, if you want to use that term.
How are you doing, buddy?
Doing really good. I had 2 big wins today, which reminds me, are y'all going to apologize to me pretty soon?
About what?
For what? What do we do now? What?
That statement contained multiple levels of delusion.
What do we do, Matt?
Jmike's concession today.
Why should we apologize to you?
Because remember when y'all yelled at me? I can't remember if you kicked me out of the room or if I just left when I said that Jmike's objection to the Kalam cosmological argument first premise.
Oh, God.
And y'all got off on me. And then Jake spent hours talking to Jake about it. But then Jmike conceded today that it wasn't necessarily a composition fallacy. But still, you guys defended Jmike and said it was a composition fallacy. But now Jmike has conceded that it wasn't. So are you guys going to offer an apology to me?
No. First of all, was that he confused a composition fallacy with like induction or something. I thought that was his like misspeaking. Second of all, I'm still not convinced it's not a fucking composition fallacy. So, whatever.
Isn't the first premise just whatever begins to exist has a cause?
Yeah.
How's that composition fallacy?
Well, because we only know things in the universe.
You broke up.
Yeah, that's right, Haiti.
Well,
our entire body of knowledge is based on stuff we see in this universe. So that's all we can possibly be referring to when we say everything that exists has a cause.
I think somebody giving a justification of the
Well, you
composition
could just
fallacy, but the
say,
premise itself.
okay, so well, what's the justification? And they could say, well, everything we see that exists, that begins to exist, has a cause. And then you could say, well, what do you mean by everything? And they would have to say everything in this universe.
Well, that's just them. That's just making an inductive case.
Yeah, but composition fallacy isn't exclusive with an induction case, right? You do an induction either way.
No, the thing is that, you know, we're saying like, here's a part, it has property X, here's another part, it has property X. And then to say that the whole thing has property X, it doesn't follow.
Well, look, y'all could talk
But
about
but
it.
again, it depends on how they say it, right? Because they could say something like, "Oh, this thing, everything that we see has a cause. So if this next thing that we are asking if it has a cause, we can just inductively say yes, it has a cause."
Are we really still on
That's
this?
not.
Didn't we resolve this like
There's no bringing
7 hours ago?
There's no bringing like parts and wholes into that.
Also,
So it just all depends on how they justify it.
Nice fit there, Matt. Looking good.
Just an apology, that's all.
You bag any bucks today?
Yes,
yeah, 8-pointer.
Yeah. Let's go.
Oh no, Jake heard the bat signal.
I have good suspicion that a YouTube video might be coming out. I'm not sure.
About what?
About Jmike. But I'm just here to collect. I collected $1 today. Now I'm here to collect my apology.
Well,
No one's giving you an apology, okay?
then what? Then who resolve this like 7 hours ago?
Just an apology. That's all.
Did you get an apology?
No
yet,
one's
Matt?
giving Matt an apology.
DJ.
The reason?
But I'm just here to collect. I collected $1 today. Now I'm here to collect my apology.